what does Los Angeles mean to me? I've always thought that LA is a place where dreams come true.
Los Angeles is like an amazing city.
It's not just a tourist destination for me, it's also home.
Hi, my name is Sophie Janinet, and you're listening to LA Portraits. In today's episode, we are going to explore another side of Los Angeles with Leonardo Neves.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Come on in.
Leonardo, Leo for short, came to Los Angeles 6 years ago to work for Snapchat after an unusual job interview.
Basically got that conversation with me at the beach, showing the background being the ocean. Something you can only do in LA, I guess, because Snap was literally at the boardwalk in Venice. I remember that conversation because I turned it off. I called Danny and I was basically saying, look, I want to work near the ocean.
Today, Leo is the head of applied research at Grammarly. Basically, he is a big shot in natural language processing and machine learning. In case you're wondering, yes, it has to do with artificial intelligence, which is a very hot topic right now. But we won't dive too much into all of this. This podcast, as you know, is about Los Angeles, or rather today, about Marina del Rey, which is where Leo became an Angeleno. But let's start at the beginning of the story. And for that, we will make a little detour in Brazil, because Leo is from Rio de Janeiro.
So when I was a teenager, how old was I? Like maybe 14. I did this English course, and they had this program where if you did well, you could come to the US, study English. So I got this thing where I came with some friends to study at UCLA for 2 weeks English. And I was kind of preparing to go to university back then, and I was, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to be at UCLA, right? And then throughout my time in university in Brazil, my goal was to come to the US to study at UCLA, basically because that's what I knew. Like, I stayed at the dorm. Like, I was not a student at UCLA, but I was kind of living the UCLA life, I would say. And I felt, okay, yeah, that's so much different than my school in Brazil. And I don't know, I was very excited about UCLA in general. Also, I feel because I was younger, I didn't get to explore LA as much. I went to Santa Monica, and I went to Disney and so on. But I think that area around UCLA is the area that kind of got me hooked to LA. And then I came back a couple of times afterwards, and I started knowing more, and I fell in love with Marina del Rey specifically, I'd say, but LA in general.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, when you come back from this first trip, do you tell your parents, oh my God, guys, I want to be in LA?
Yeah. And they were all like, oh yeah, okay. It's a great aspiration, but that's with your feet on the ground, it's hard to, that's not something, I feel it's a generation gap as well. They're not used to, it's not that it's easy to move from Brazil to LA nowadays, but it was basically impossible at their age, right? So now there were possibilities. I was pretty lucky for a lot of steps on the way as well, but I don't think they encouraged too much, basically, because I was already in good track to get into a good school in Brazil, and I don't think they could afford actually a university here too. So
You won't be surprised to hear he was a straight A kind of student. So after getting his engineering bachelor's degree in Rio, he applied to get a scholarship to study computer science in the US. And of course, he got it. But instead of UCLA, he got a grant for Cornell, where he studied for a year before returning to Rio. But, as you can imagine, Leo did not give up on his American dream. Although, it did change while he was back home. You see, until that point, it was a one-man's dream. But that year in Rio, Leo met the person who turned it into a two people's dream. And her name is Danielle. Danny for short.
So we met on this gap year where I came back to Brazil in 2014 after Cornell. I went to like Palo Alto. I did an internship there. Then I went back to Brazil. And then I got there in August of 2014. I came back in August 2015. I met Danny that year in February during the carnival. So it's a very Brazilian story.
Only 6 months after they started dating, Leo got accepted at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh for a 2-year master's program. So he left Rio once again to head to the US. Yet, somehow, him and Danny made it work.
Relationship 2 years long distance. So six months in Rio, 1.5 years in Pittsburgh, and then 6 months in LA before she was able to come. In August of 2017, she moved to LA.
Now, 8 years after they met at the carnival in Rio de Janeiro, Dani is also an Angeleno, with her individual dreams and epic successes. In fact, she deserves her very own episode. But we'll get to that. The reason she has to be a massive part of this one is not only because I'm a romantic and their love story is so beautiful, but also because she had a role to play in Leo's decision to choose Los Angeles.
And one thing we discussed is like, oh, she always wanted to work in movies, and there's no better place than LA for that, right? So if that was the case, maybe that would be the situation where she would be able to make the jump. She was doing, she was working as a finance person in Brazil, and she wanted to do that, like study films, right? And then that kind of was her motivation, other than me. Of course, I was a big factor, but
Really?
hopefully, yeah.
This conversation between them happened around the time that Leo was doing his internship at Yelp in the Silicon Valley, and as he was starting to receive job offers, even before he graduated.
Especially if you were coming from a good school like CMU back then. I know like times are tough now, but when I graduated, you would just graduate with like 5 to 10 offers from different companies, and I got my job offer from Snap was, I think was July or August of 2016. So I had 6 months that I already knew I was going to join Snap. I think I interviewed to 7 different companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got 5 offers back then. I feel there's this
For a little bit.
threshold of understanding the process that you have to get.
Yeah.
And that, I always say that even now being on the side that hires people, right? Like there's a threshold where after people are over that, they get all the offers that they apply. Below that, they don't get anything, right? So the process involves you coding, doing the interview, involves you showing that like behavior side of things. But honestly, like I think I had 8 interviews for just Snap alone, something like that. Between coding, like probably 6 coding ones, some research ones because I was applying for a research position, and behavior, and yeah, it's a lot. And then there's this second step after you get all the offers, which I'm not sure is happening right now again, but back then happened, where you meet with the people, managers that could be your potential managers, and that also was a very big win for Snap. It definitely was a mentor that brought me to LA, and I'm not gonna say that being LA helped him or not. I think it helped a lot, but back then, like it was very hard for you to find big companies, tech companies in LA. But now it's called Silicon Beach, right? The Venice and Santa Monica area. So there's a lot of them. It's one more point for LA that I could be like living that life, right?
Going through this 8 steps hiring process successfully after years of studying in Rio, in Cornell, and in Pittsburgh could have felt like a relief, coupled with a huge sense of self-accomplishment for Leo. But when I asked him if it's how he felt, things happened to be more nuanced.
It was very tricky because I always had this dream of working at Google when I was younger. And then when I finally got to apply and like interview with Google, and I picked Snap, I think it was kind of, oh, wow. I'm making a very big decision here, but it's coming from the heart. And I think that's the right decision to make. I feel until today, like I'm not at Snap anymore, but like still being able to navigate this like childhood dream of like being a computer scientist and be doing this kind of interesting stuff, I think has never become too old for me. The fact that I was at Snap and had the beach, that was definitely a plus. I definitely missed that part. Snap is not at the beach anymore, by the way. They moved to Santa Monica. But that part where they switched was very hard for me because I really loved that office and that environment that we had. Yeah, I feel that's another reason why I moved to LA, from San Francisco to LA, in the sense of picking the place where I wanted to live. I felt in San Francisco there's a lot of tech companies and everyone works either a tech company or a bank, everyone like that I would talk to. And I felt that LA, like there, people already kind of made it. And then in LA, everyone comes to make it, right? So I feel this changing philosophy and like this hope and discussions being broader than what language, programming language do you like. I think that's a big shift for me that I really embrace that in LA, and kind of makes me value like the companies that are here from tech, because they're usually more, I don't know, open to different kind of personalities too.
Once Leo made up his mind, came the time to look for a place to live, which is never easy in Los Angeles, especially with Leo still in Pittsburgh and Danny still in Rio. Fortunately, a good friend agreed to visit apartments for them, filming everything inside and out to help them choose. And if Marina del Rey was mostly a convenient choice at first, once he arrived, Leo sure fell for this exact place where we are walking right now.
We are in the marina near the Merit Hotel. We have the volleyball and foot volley courts. I play foot volley on those sometimes. And then if you keep going around, you're going to see a lot of not too tall buildings. A lot of them are hotels, a lot of them are residentials. And if you turn to the marina, you're going to see a lot of those fancy boats and people doing stand-up paddle. And depending on what time of the day you're here, you're going to see people doing sports. You're going to see kids playing on the playground that they have on the sand here. Just like every time, depending on the day and what time of the day you come, it's going to be a completely different situation. And we have the Cheesecake Factory is behind us. And
let's pause 1 second here to mention that this is not just any Cheesecake Factory. In fact, Leo remembers very well the first time he went to this place, which is now full of memories.
Like, do you remember the first time you came into the Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah, was the day I arrived, because that was the only thing that was open walking distance. So I got LAX, I put Uber, I got to my apartment, got the keys and so on. So I had an empty apartment, an empty fridge, and didn't even know where the grocery stores were. So I said, well, there's a Cheesecake Factory across the street. Let me go there. And I actually became friends with one of the waiters, John, and he taught me that, well, not sure that's a secret, but if you go on the bar area, you can just sit whatever time you want. You don't have to wait in line. So, and he would always be there, like taking care of their area. So I would just go there, like wave to him, and he would kind of point me where the like available seats were, and just like jump line and be there. So I would go there like a couple times a week when I just came, because they had this Skinnylicious menu where it's kind of healthy-ish food. Not gonna call it healthy, but it's definitely something that, as I didn't know how to cook super well and I was alone and I didn't really figure out the grocery situation, it would kind of be the place where I would have dinner a lot of time. I also feel when we just got here and didn't have the car, we would hang out a lot on the marina. Then Cheesecake Factory became an important place for us. We would just kind of celebrate anything, like she getting accepted at UCLA or she graduating, and all the milestones. We would just, like, as tradition, go to that Cheesecake Factory, which is kind of funny to think about.
And of course, there is more to Marina than the Cheesecake Factory, as Leo found out with time.
Well, not completely random, because Snap was in Venice, right? So I wanted to be walking distance, which was very tricky in Venice, as I learned. So this is not really walking distance. Like, well, it is, but it would be like 30 minutes walk from my building to the office. But I was okay with that. Like, going back to your original question of how I felt about LA after I moved into my apartment, having this commute of 30 minutes walking at the beach, that was pretty fun. Like, commute was one of the best parts of my day. I like, especially where we live there, I think there's, you can walk a couple blocks and be super chill and like look at the ocean, look at the marina, like we're doing right now. And then you walk a couple blocks, you're in Venice and there's all the chaos. And I got used to Venice Beach because it's very like scary at first, the first time you go there. Scary and exciting, and I got to learn the folks that would be playing guitar there and kind of all those shows that they do at the boardwalk. And you walk a couple other blocks and you're at Lincoln and Albert Kinney, and there's so many bars and restaurants, so it kind of has whatever vibe you have at that moment, you can just pick. I would hang out a lot in Venice, mainly because all my friends, one or two were not from work, but in the very beginning, most of them were people that I met at work. And there are bars there, there's a speakeasy, comedy club that we would go every Wednesday. So I would just be hanging around that Venice area where the offices were. Thinking Marina specifically, like that was that turtle race at Brandon's. That's very interesting, and we would go quite often.
What is it? I'm not sure I understood.
It's a turtle race. You never
Actual turtles?
Yeah, you never heard that. Yeah, it's a big thing. So I think every Thursday, if I'm not, yeah, I think every Thursday, like, it gets super crowded and they put those turtles to, basically they just have to go get out of a circle and you pick which one you want and you bet like $1 or $5 and whoever gets whichever turtle gets out, like whoever bet on them gets the money or something like that. But it's more like the racing part, no one really cares. It's more about the party that they make around it. It's a lot of fun and gets very crowded. But Marina itself, I spend most of the time in Marina, right?
Yeah.
Having lived in the area for over 6 years, Leo is now officially a West Angeleno. I say West because Los Angeles is a huge city, but he obviously prefers the ocean side.
Yeah, so there are two things. One, I focus a lot, I still focus a lot in the West LA area, mainly because traffic, right, makes everything harder. Definitely, the one thing that I feel LA misses that Rio has, Rio de Janeiro, where I'm from, is the fact that you have to plan a lot what you're gonna do during the day, because it's like a 40-minute drive somewhere to get there. In Rio, it's very spontaneous. You're like, oh, why don't we go to that bar? And then we walk to the beach and this and that, because it's a much smaller space that you have to go through. So I don't like that about LA, like how things are far and there's a lot of driving that you need to do on heavy traffic. But yeah, that and like I think the homeless situation has become worse over the years, and this disparity between like rich neighborhoods and yeah, it's becoming worse and worse. But I'm not sure that's a LA problem versus like a world problem, and I'm not gonna get into that. Part I like the most is what I mentioned about this diversity of people you meet. You're going from the tech person, and then you get an Uber, and the Uber driver is like a wannabe actress, and she shares a lot about the information, the story. And then you go to a bar and you talk to people that work in a lot of different industries that are not yours. Like that's something that's not easy to find unless you're in a metropolitan area. And then getting that together with all the cool parts of LA, it's something that I value a lot.
While Leo praises the amazing diversity of Los Angeles, he could not care less about running into celebrities. As we were getting back to his place, I wanted to know how he felt about this side of LA, and with just one anecdote, he summed it up quite well.
Yeah, I remember when we went, the first time took someone to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I saw this person dressed as a Hello Kitty, and this kid came and was like taking pictures and so on. And then the moment the kid turned, the Hello Kitty just took off the mask, and it was this older Asian person, and they started smoking, and the kid was just looking super scared that like, what happened to Hello Kitty? So it was a situation that I remember. I've been to the Walk of Fame a lot of times, but that specific one where you have this why you mentioned Disney before, right? Like when you're at Disney, they keep the magic going. Like Walk of Fame is just another place where people dress up, and that kid got probably like some trauma on that interaction.
You might be wondering if this is a kind of a metaphor for meeting famous people in general. You will often hear people in LA saying that one should never meet their idols at the risk of being disappointed, which made me realize that of course I should not ask Leo about movie stars, but rather about meeting people in his own field.
Well, here's not the place. For those folks, I met a lot of them in San Francisco, right? Because most of them live there. I don't know. I would probably, like, if I met Bill Gates, I would be excited about. I actually reported to one of the two founders at Snap, right? So it kind of became a little bit of the the cool kid thing you mentioned, that I got used to it. I would meet him every week. And he was super nice, like down to earth. I feel if he was kind of snobby or something like that, would might kind of give more of a celebrity sense. But I reported to Bobby, which was the founder that's last like showing the media, and like he was so chill that it didn't look like someone that, I don't know, a celebrity or billionaire or anything like that.
In case you're wondering why Leo used to spend so much time with Snap's co-founder, answering directly to him, it's because within 6 years, he went from being just another developer to becoming principal research scientist and manager. And that was the year he turned 30 years old. Yep. Today, not only is he leading the applied research team of Grammarly, but he is also a teaching fellow at Harvard and considered one of the world AI developers to watch. This made me wonder how Leo's parents felt about his journey, especially since artificial intelligence is a bit of a mystery, at least for me.
I don't know, I think they're proud and they don't really understand how things, like my dad is studying like machine learning, reading a book, which I think is interesting, right? He's trying to understand, and like he downloaded this app about taking pictures of birds and detecting which like breed it is, species, I don't know. And he was kind of, oh, how does that work? And I was explaining how it like actually works and the background, and that kind of became a bonding thing. Like it's so like different than reality that it's good to have that bridge. And now there's ChatGPT, there's all this stuff that he basically texts me every day. Oh, did you see this? This is this. And yeah, I know, I'm working on it, right? But yeah, it's kind of been interesting interactions there.
Yeah, so you don't think he fully realizes what kind of a tech guru, AI, machine learning thing you are, right?
I had a presentation that I gave to one university in Brazil a couple years back, USP, which is the best university in Brazil, and they had this careers thing, and they invited me to give a talk, and it was public, so I invited him. He watched, and then the following day, oh, it's very impressive. Like the other day you're a kid, right? And now you're giving a talk, and like you're like really a grown up now, and so on. Like, and I've been doing that for like 10 years now, like working in tech. And I think that talk kind of made him realize that, oh yeah, he's a grown up professional now, which is, I like that connection, because my dad was super, like both of them were super successful in their careers. They got to the top, that what they could do. So I always try to learn from them too, because it's so much wisdom. I guess. I always had this mentality of trying to, every opportunity I have to learn something, I would just try to learn. I guess in school I did a lot of work in unrelated things, because I wanted to, when I got an opportunity for the exchange program, for example, that I had a lot of stories to tell. And that helped. Like I heard back from Cornell that's one of the reasons that I had worked in like so many different places, and that kind of showed that I liked learning. And this learning part is usually always been with me. Like I want to learn, and even if I don't like my job right now, like what's the learning piece that I can take? Not saying I don't like my job right now, but like even if I didn't like my job right now, like what's the learning part that I can take? Yeah, because there's a lot of situations. No one's successful just because they're good. There's a lot of luck involved as well. Luck is when you're prepared for something and you find the right opportunity, right, to connect things. I really believe in that like you need to try to be prepared for when the opportunity arises. That's probably where LA comes on this answer, which is like, oh, I really like, I want to live in a place like that, not necessarily LA, because I thought it was going to be very hard to be in LA. But, well, we're staying here for good, so I think, yeah.
You're staying here for good?
I think so, yeah. At least the next 10 years or so, we want to be here.
And that's a wrap of this episode of LA Portraits. Remember, if you want to support the show and get access to some pretty awesome bonuses, head to the Patreon of LA Portraits. You can also just treat yourself with some merch on the Buy Me a Coffee page of the show. The links to these and to more info on this episode's hot topic are right there in the description. For questions and comments, reach out on Facebook or Instagram. And most importantly, don't forget to leave a comment and 5 stars on your favorite podcast platform to help more people know about this show. Stay tuned, I'll be back soon.